All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to Ironside Lunch and Learn. I want to give a special thanks to our host and our sponsor this week, Ofer Mizrahi. We truly appreciate the use of the space and the fact that you are providing this beautiful meal for everyone. May Hashem bless you, your family, your children. May we have success in all your endeavors. This week's parasha, can I get an amen?
Amen.
This week's parasha is Parashat Shelach Lecha. This is the parasha of the Meraglim, the spies. And at the end it talks about tzitzit. I have to say that this learning should also be in the merit of Refuah Shlema to Rabbi Yeshayahu Yosef Pinto ben Rabbanit Zari. Me'ezrat Hashem, may all these divrei Torah be to his healing. Parashat Meraglim and tzitzit is a big concept in Judaism. I did not prepare a lesson about tzitzit this week, but you should know if there's any time, it's a good time to put on a tzitzit. It's the Shabbat. It's the Shabbat that talks about it. It's a good time when they read that concept in the Torah, that you're there and you're saying, look God, have a tzitzit on me. Even if it's just this Shabbat. Even if it's just this one time a year. And if you can do it every Shabbat, God bless. And if you can do it every day, even more. One day we'll do a class specifically just about tzitzit. I'm just giving you a tip. If you want to plug into some incredible spirituality, even if you don't feel it, even if you don't understand it, just put on the tzitzit on the week that tzitzit is in the parasha. It's a big nachat ruach for Kadosh Baruch Hu. It brings him a lot of happiness and a lot of joy. What I decided to speak about this week is about the Meraglim, because it's a very, very interesting story about the spies. Last week's parasha ended with Miriam getting leprosy. And why did she get leprosy? Because she spoke Lashon Hara about Moshe.
What's leprosy?
Leprosy tzarat. But it's not the tzarat of the skin like we think that it's of nowadays. It's spiritual leprosy. In other words, the skin looks like that because of something spiritual that's going on with the person. Now, the Meraglim saw that. So they should have learned from it and not have spoken Lashon Hara about the land of Israel. But they didn't. They did not learn a lesson from Miriam. So that's why the story of Miriam and Lashon Hara is close to the Meraglim and their Lashon Hara. Because they should have learned from it and they didn't. Now, it says over there, the first pasuk, Shelach Lecha, Hashem tells Moshe, go ahead if you want, send for yourself these Meraglim. I don't think it's a good idea. You don't need to do it. I already promised you that the land is great. It's the land that I promised the forefathers. And they said Anashim. At that point, they were Anashim. They were men of stature, men of honorable men. Latur et haaretz. Latur et haaretz means to take a look at to tour the land. Ironically, look at the word that's used in Hebrew, Latur. What do we say when we go and look at, we go on vacation? We become tourists, right? We go on a tour. Latour comes from here. This is the root. By the way, there's many words in Hebrew that when you hear them in English, the root word is from the Hebrew language. Right here we have it, Latour et haaretz. Now, they want to go take a look at it. In other words, come back and report. And of course, we want a favorable report of Eretz Yisrael. However, 10 out of the 12 came back with a bad report. The two that didn't were Kalev ben Yefuneh and Yehoshua ben Nun. One of the reasons that the rabbis give us of why did they come back with a bad report, they said the land is eating its inhabitants because they saw that people are dying. They saw people going to funerals. Where in reality Hashem made it like that so they can be so busy with taking care of the dead that they wouldn't pay attention to them while they're touring the land. They didn't say that, the wrong lenses on. They saw it differently. They said that it's a land of giants. I remember we spoke many times about the giants, where they came from, and this was still their offspring. And they were constantly giving a bad report, the rabbis tell us, is because they were suffering from kavod. What's kavod? Honor. They said they were starting to make calculations in their head, like right now, we're pretty high. We're like a chosen one from our tribe, Right now we have a pretty good position in Am Yisrael. Should we go into Eretz Yisrael, what's going to be? Maybe they'll vote new people into office. Maybe they'll have a different structure and we won't be part of it. Right now, we're elevated. Maybe when we go to Israel, we're not going to be part of anything. So it's better that we stay in this position. The longer we stay in the desert, the longer we have this title. Their kavod kept them from saying the truth or from seeing things the right way. Now, they said something very, very interesting that is very telling about a person's psyche. While they were reporting the Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael, the Pasuk says over there, V'sham ra'inu ta-nefilim, b'nei anak min ha-nefilim, v'nehi ba'enenu kechagavim, v'chen hayinu ba'enehem. It says over there, we saw the Nephilim. The Nephilim were the fallen angels, and b'nei anak min ha-nefilim, the giants who are the offspring of these fallen angels. If you remember, we talked about these fallen angels in Parashat Bereshit. V'nehi ba'enenu kechagavim, and it seemed to us as if we were grasshoppers. And we looked, and they saw us as grasshoppers. So, what do we want to focus in on is that they saw themselves as grasshoppers, and then the giants saw them as grasshoppers. What's the point here? The point here is the perception of yourself. They saw themselves as grasshoppers. They didn't see themselves as the chosen people, the sons of God. They didn't see them as the ones that are coming to take over the land, invincible. Hashem is the one going to give us our inheritance. They saw themselves little. And in return, the giants saw them as well. It's the same thing in nowadays. When a person thinks of himself, I'm not much, I'm nothing special. There's so many other people out there that are bigger than me, better than me, stronger than me, richer than me. When he starts to project that, that's what people see. That's what we see over here. The Jewish people had no reason to be scared. The spies had no reason to be scared, had no reason to have any fear. They had no reason to have any negative thought about what's happening over there. But because they had that perception, that's what they projected, that's how they saw them. And nowadays we learn from that, it's the same way life works. If you see yourself as a small stature, as a person who's not worthy, not going to be successful, not lucky, all these things that are bringing you down, that's how people are going to see you. It's your perception of you that is projected, and the people see what you project. Project a better version of yourself, a success, happy, whatever energy or whatever form of yourself you want to put out there, people will see you that way. We learn it from the spies. They basically projected a wrong identity at the end of the day. They should have shown that they are the Jewish people that got saved from slavery from HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Egypt and are now coming into the promised land. That was their identity. Walking into Eretz Yisrael, looking at everything negative and feeling like a grasshopper, that wasn't them. That was a wrong identity. Speaking of identity, there's a certain person in the parasha that changed his identity as well. We have one of the two meraglim that did not speak Lashon Hara about Am Yisrael, about Eretz Yisrael, was Yehoshua ben Nun and Kalev ben Yefuneh. However, in the beginning of the parasha, Hoshea ben Nun is introduced as that name. Hoshea ben Nun. That was his name in the beginning of the parasha. However, right before he goes to tour the land, Moshe grabs him to the side and tells him, Hoshea, I am now naming you Yehoshua. He changed his name to Yehoshua. He added a Yud. So, a lot of explanations about this name change and about this extra Yud that was added to his name. Many explanations, one of the most popular explanations is that Moshe put the Yud in his name in order to give him a blessing. He put a Yud in there to give him a bracha, that he should be successful on his trip and not fall for any sins and not fall for any what happened with the Meraglim, to be saved from that particular situation. It also says the spies, how many spies spoke negatively about Eretz Yisrael? There were 10. What's the numerical value of Yud? 10. So it says, why did it put the Yud in front of Hoshea? To say that you're going to get the credit of the 10 that spoke bad about Eretz Yisrael. Yehoshua. You can get the credit of all those 10. I thought that was also a beautiful chidush. However, many years ago, I heard this chidush from Rabbi Mansour, and I'd like to repeat it. I almost repeat it almost every year because it's a beautiful, beautiful nuance on how Hoshea ben Nun became Yehoshua ben Nun. So basically, last week's parasha, we had the Mitnabim, Eldad Medad, and they had a prophecy while they were at the tent. Me'am Loez quotes that the Mitnabim, what they said is, without going to the Rashi Tevot, is that Moshe is going to end up dying on top of a mountain, and the Yud Mem of Mitnabim is Yehoshua Machnis, and Yehoshua is going to be the one that brings the Jewish people into Eretz Yisrael. So the word is out. Yehoshua is the one that's going to bring Am Yisrael, and he's going to be the successor of Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe takes him to the side and he tells him, you know, you've been my prize student, you've been the rabbi's assistant, you have a great character traits, you have all the good midot. However, the nation that you're going to lead is Am Kshei Oref. They're a tough bunch, and you have to be a little bit stronger in your character to deal with it. So what I have to do is I have to add this Yud. Now, where did this Yud come from? Where did this letter Yud come from? For that, we have to go back to Bereshit. In Bereshit, there's a couple of people that also had name change. It was Avram and Sarai. Avram got a Hey and became Avraham. Sarai, her Yud left and was replaced by a Hey, and she became Sarah. So again, Avram and Sarai became Avraham and Sarah. Avraham got an extra Hey, and Sarah had her Yud replaced with a Hey. And they say that the Hey that was added to them was the blessing that they got from Hashem for Priyah V'Riviyah, so they can procreate, so they can have children. As a matter of fact, they say, when you have children, when you have a girl, you should always name her with a Hey at the end. A girl that has Hey in the end has a much easier time getting married, has a much easier time getting pregnant. Sometimes when people go through those hardships, they go to a special rabbi that knows how to deal with these things, and they replace the name with a name, or they add a Hey, or they find a way to drop a Hey in the person's name to bring the bracha of the Hey that we had in Abraham and Sarah. Now, if we know Sarah, she was a tough cookie. She had a good, strong character. If you remember, she was with Ishmael, and Hagar, she didn't tolerate no funny business in her house. As soon as she saw that things were not going the right way, told Hagar, take your bags and go, and take your son with you. Your son is a bad influence on my son. And you have to understand, at the end of the day, this is Abraham's firstborn. That's what made Abraham a father. Ishmael was, he loved him. To ask him to and not only that, Abraham is well over 80 years old. So you're asking a guy that's been wanting to have children his whole life to get rid of his only son, of his first son that he loved and he cared for, but again, he did it. Why? He followed what Sarah told him. So she had a very good, strong character. So Moshe says, you need that. You need a little bit of Sarah's character in you. So he took the Yud from Sarah and he put it into his name and turned him into Yehoshua, in order to give him that character trait that Sarah has in his persona, so he can continue now and mold the Jewish nation and be able to handle the Jewish nation with the day-to-day procedures that they're going on with him. Now, just to show you that also the Torah doesn't even waste even one drop of ink. Before, he was called Hoshea. Hoshea, under the hay, has a segol. Those are 3 dots. Right? Later on, when he got turned into Yehoshua, what they did is they took the segol and they put it a shva. Those are the 2 little circles under the yud that turned into Yehoshua, and now the segol, missing 2, is left with 1. It's turned into a chirik. That's why it's Yehoshua bin Nun and not Ben Nun, because even though he got the yud, the segol, the 3 dots, got split up into a shva, 2 on the right under the yud, and a chirik under the ben, and turned into bin. And that's how Hoshea ben Nun turned into Yehoshua bin Nun. Now, it's one of the reasons why also he needed this upgrade, this identity change for Yehoshua, is because when he got the smicha later on in a few more parashiyot, Moshe Rabbeinu was actually going to put his hands over Yehoshua and give him a smicha like a rabbi. And it says over there, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Kach lecha et Yehoshua bin Nun ish ruach. He called Yehoshua bin Nun ish ruach. Why ish ruach? It says ruach is the soul, the nefesh. That's what you feel with. He says, he told him, take Yehoshua because he's going to be able to feel the people. He's going to be able to feel the person's angst, desires, needs, wants, troubles. As a leader, you have to feel your people. You can't be cold-hearted, dictatorship, this is the law, black and white, you have to do it. You have to feel your people. You have to feel each person individually. And that's why Yehoshua was chosen. And at the same time, he got the yud in order to be able to deal with the good and the bad, with the easy and with the tough. And that's how he got to be Yehoshua bin Nun. However, before Yehoshua bin Nun became Yehoshua bin Nun, he has a very interesting history. Hi, welcome. He has a very, very interesting history. This is a midrash. This is a midrash that we were able to get from Nisim Gaon. Nisim Gaon took us back to Yehoshua bin Nun as a baby, teenager, and as a young adult, which is very, very interesting, his life story. See, we know Yehoshua bin Nun, the Torah says, Lo yamush mitoch ha'ohel. He was in the Torah Academy of Moshe all day, every day. He didn't leave. He stayed there. He was the prize student. He was the rabbi's assistant. He was the future leader of Am Yisrael. He will later on fight 31 kings in Israel, win. He also has a famous battle of Yericho, the battle of Jericho, very famous battle of how the walls crumbled with the blowing of the shofar. And he also got the honor of dividing the land of Am Yisrael. I mean, he was a pretty big figure in Jewish history, Yehoshua bin Nun. He lived to 110. Moshe Rabbeinu lived to 120. There's a small little story about him living 110 years versus 120 like Moshe, because there's a whole split lives that you could do between Moshe Rabbeinu and between Yehoshua. They have parallel lives like you wouldn't believe. This is a whole other class. The one that maybe next year we'll give that. But on this point here, just the difference was why Moshe Rabbeinu lived to 120 and Yehoshua lived to 110 is because they both had the same task. One was to fight the Midyanim. When that task was at Moshe's hands, he did it right away. He took care of it. Even though that it meant that he would die sooner. In other words, when the job is done, Moshe's life would be over. Same thing was with Yehoshua. Yehoshua got the job of fighting the Midyanim, and something that should have taken a little bit less time took about 7 years. And even though he was 99.50% everything, B'Shem Hashem, everything was exactly to the T, the way they were supposed to be, there was a small percentage in this little test of fighting the Midyanim that he failed on, in a way that he prolonged it just so he can prolong his life a little bit longer, because he knew that as soon as he finishes this war with the Midyanim, his job is over and he's going to expire. So the rabbis tell us that Hashem said, because you prolonged your life, not Hashem Shemayim, because you wanted a little bit more life, for whatever reason it might be, Hashem reduced his life by 10 years and he died 110. However, listen to this interesting midrash from Yehoshua ben Nun's early years. The midrash says, Rabbeinu Nisim Gaon says that Yeshua's parents couldn't bear children. They had a very hard time conceiving. And they prayed very hard to Hashem. They did a special prayer, La'ater. La'ater Hashem is when a woman and a man stand in opposite corners of the room, and they pray together in order to switch a judgment around. Another famous couple that did the exact type of prayer is Yitzchak and Rivka. And they got answered. She became pregnant. And she was very happy, but the father wasn't. The father was crying almost every day. So she rebukes him. She tells him, what's wrong with you? I got pregnant. Your prayers got answered. What's the problem? He told her, I had a vision. It came to me. I had a dream. It was revealed to me from the heavens above that this same child that you're bearing is actually going to behead me. He's going to kill me. And I'm sad about that. So she told him that she knew he was a tzaddik. She knew that he was a man of faith and honest, and what he's saying was true. So she said, well, if that's the case, then as soon as I give birth, I'll put him in a small little basket, just like Moshe Rabbeinu. Like I said, back to that whole parallel lives. There's a whole midrash of how they had similar experiences, maybe 20 or 30 different instances. One of them was this, that he was also put into a basket, and he was also put into the Ye'on, and they let him go. While Yehoshua was in the basket, a big fish came and swallowed up this basket with Yehoshua in it. That same big fish was caught, and it was served on the king's table. So you can imagine this huge fish on the table, a king's table, they only get the best. They come to open up the fish, they hear a baby crying. Who's the baby? It's Yehoshua. They take him out, and they didn't know what to make of it. The king says, take him out, bring a maiden to feed him, and he raised him. He raised Yehoshua. And later on, he gave him the position to be Sarat HaBachim, a cook, a chef, or in charge of the kitchen. And many days passed, and Yehoshua's father, now Yehoshua had no clue who his parents were, but Yehoshua's father did something wrong in the king's eyes. And at that time, the punishment was to behead a person that doesn't do right in the eyes of the king. And who does it? Sarat HaBachim, the one who's in charge. Here's the prophecy coming true. So Yehoshua comes to his father and he beheads him, just like it was said. As much as they tried to run away from it, it happened. And one of the laws was, when somebody gets beheaded by the Sarat HaBachim, that they call it over there, Sandetov is the proper word for it, he gets to take over his family. So now Yehoshua takes over his father's family, and there he is, and he's trying to go and be with the lady of the house, which happens to be his mom. So while he's trying to have relations with her, her breasts start to produce milk, on a very heavy flow of milk to the point that it started to overflow the bed. He got scared, and he thought that maybe she's a witch, or that maybe this is some sort of sorcery. Now, she put two and two together, and she started to tell him the story. She goes to him, don't you recognize the milk that was feeding you? Don't you know who you are? You are the son of Nun, the one that you beheaded. You got swallowed into a fish, and you were raised in the king's court. And then he started to hear back, yeah, people did tell me that when I was a kid, I was in a fish, and I was, and they took me out. And all of a sudden he realized that what she was telling him was true. That everything started to make sense. He stopped right there, and he made teshuvah. Now, the word nun in Aramaic, if you ever study Gemara, the word nun, the letter nun is in Hebrew. The word nun in Aramaic means fish. So now when you see that it says Yehoshua bin Nun, Yehoshua, the son of the fish, it's actually connected to this whole story, to this whole midrash. And that's how we got that name as well. So it's very, very interesting. Sometimes we like to take a character in the parasha and go a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper to see what we can find out about him. And you can see that besides being an incredible leader, an incredible assistant to Moshe Rabbeinu, one of the few spies, or one of the two spies that did not talk Lashon Hara about Am Yisrael, but he also had an incredible beginning that we just heard about through this midrash. This week's parasha, we learn how to stay away from the kavod, how to stay away from Lashon Hara, and that the most important thing in life is to be honest and to be real, because that's what's going to get you to your high levels. Because you can see Yehoshua bin Nun, he stayed real. When he found out the truth about his mom, he did teshuvah. When he was a student of Moshe Rabbeinu, he did the right thing, that he got to such high levels that he got to merit to not only to bring Am Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael, but to conquer the land, divide the land, and have such a big name in Am Yisrael that today he was the subject of our lunch and learn. B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem v'arech otchem, samach otchem, have a Shabbat Shalom.